All right. Welcome, everybody. I think we are good to get started with the webinar. Quick introduction before we get started. I am Arthur Novarina, Managing Director in EMEA for Kochava. We are really excited to have you all with us today. This is our webinar for gaming specifically. In the next hour, we're going to go into everything marketing mix modeling. But before we start, a couple of items. This webinar is being recorded, and we'll share the recording with you by tomorrow. Also, if you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to type those questions in the Q&A text box. You will see that at the top right of your screen, and we'll tackle those questions towards the end of the call. Also, if we don't have time to tackle all those questions, don't worry. We'll follow up with you directly after the webinar. Then briefly about Kochava, before we start on we've been in the ads measurement space since 2011. Today, we measure far beyond mobile. We are what we call an omni-channel measurement solution. We can measure any type of connected devices, both for advertisers as well as publishers. And we also do far more than just last touch attribution, hence why this topic today. And I guess, like many of you, has been on our radar for quite some time now. There's been many changes in the ad tech ecosystem, many changes in the privacy landscape, and we can see that there is clearly a renewed interest for And we deeply believe that there is a need to bring next generation solution to the market, solutions that are more accessible, but also solutions that are easier to action for performance marketing team. So our story with at Kochava started about a year ago when we completed the acquisition of Machine Advertising. And Machine Advertising had been working on developing an solution for the previous 4 years. So all in all, we've been in that space for about 5 years now. That being said, I'm pleased to welcome our different panelists to this webinar. Diana, who is Head of Client Measurement at TikTok and for gaming specifically in EMEA. Gary, who is our General Manager for AIM here at Kochava. And Rob, who is our Head of Data Science for all things Gary, Diana, Rob, if you want to say something to the audience.
Yeah, hi, thanks, Arthur. Yeah, as Arthur said, I'm the General Manager for the AIM products, and I'm based here in London. Robert?
Yeah, again, Head of Data Science for the AIM product at Kochava. And yeah, we've been working on this for over 5 years now.
And thanks guys. And I'm Diana, Head of Client Measurement for gaming at TikTok for the EMEA market. Very passionate about gaming measurement. I have been around media mix models for many years, working with clients from different variety of industries. But in the past 2 years, I have been focusing on the gaming measurement, which is quite an exciting area.
All right, super, thanks. So I guess let's get started with a basic question, but at least this will allow us to make sure that we're all on the same page, and then we'll delve deeper into more detailed technical conversation later on. But obviously, might be new to some people in this audience, so I think it's key to understand what is what isn't and essentially how could we best define marketing mix modeling. Maybe Gary, if you want to get started here. And if you are not on mute, it will be better.
Thank you. I was chatting away there. I'm sure I'll give a definition of marketing mix modeling from a sort of top level view. So marketing mix modeling is measures and analyzes the influencing contribution of each one of your different media sources. But it also considers things like external factors, which count as things like weather, national holidays, even pop concerts and sporting events and so on. and it's able to decompose your sales and give you feedback on the influence of each one of those different variables on your conversions effectively. So it gives you a different perspective on considering up against lost touch attribution.
Thanks, Gary. Rob, anything to add on a more technical view, maybe on how you define a MMM? You're on mute as well.
Thanks. We'll get used to that. Yeah, there's the MMM's been around since the 70s, and the technology has changed remarkably, as with all AI efforts these days. Part of the advantage is just access to huge computational capabilities, and it allows us to historically you're modeling, you've got a single model. Nowadays we've got these huge hierarchies that combine to create a much more accurate view of what drives your business. So MMM has definitely changed in recent years, and of course we're now applying it to the user acquisition space.
Yeah, and the way we position MMM as well, and the benefit for the gaming industry is its privacy first method. So in this environment nowadays, with to navigate the ever-changing landscape of digital advertising, the increasing complexity of the user journey, the growing privacy concerns, you really have to have a tool like Media Mix Models, who is a privacy-safe tool in your arsenal of products. It is not a new model. As I said, some industries, like it originated with consumer goods many tens of years ago, if not decades, if not hundreds. They have been using it successfully in order to measure their marketing activities and how to distribute money across channels. That being said, it is not an old methodology. Thanks to the efforts of the more modern new age MMM providers like Kochava AIM and more advanced models that they have built around the MMM concept, it is now adapted for very intricate industries like gaming. So it's not something new, but at the same time, is it something advanced versus, if any of you have been exposed to media mix model concepts, the old school once per year model, this is not what it is for gaming.
Right, thanks, Diana. So I hear you. You're saying it's not something new. And that being said, not every company is doing MMM nowadays, and not every performance marketing team in the gaming space is doing MMM. So why do you think they should be doing MMM, and how should they think about it in their day-to-day workflow?
I suppose I'll tackle this one first. So MMM, Triple M, offers a complete view of your marketing funnel. So it reveals the very sort of top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel of your marketing efforts. So a good example of this is quite often when we're modeling digital, mainly digital clients. We work in the app domain space. So most of their media is digital. However, some of them do perform sort of offline media, so TV, out of home, and so on. And with that data going into the model, you can start to see the effects of your, what we would call, I suppose, top of the funnel media affecting your bottom of the funnel sales and conversions and so on. So you should see it more as a way to make strategic optimizations across your entire media mix. It's going to give you a read on the contribution of different media types, both online and offline, and also give you a read on the sort of the market conditions, so seasonality, weather events, and so on. So it's just giving you a bit more sort of data, enriching your data to make sort of data-driven decisions on your strategic marketing investments.
Yeah, and there are so many reasons really to adopt MMM as a solution. As Gary said, the diversity in how you measure performance, your portfolio is becoming more diverse in terms of what marketing channels are being used, but also last click models that are currently the primary measure for performance. Although they give you this deeper understanding of the user journey, they are quickly losing relevance. They assume that the credit goes only to one platform, but we know that platforms do work together. This is why gaming clients are doing omni-channel campaigns for the whole idea that they all work together. There is also a growing need to understand better the value of the view. Views have taken a backseat in the recent years, with clicks providing an easier way to track the user journey. However, a person can be influenced by an ad without clicking on it, but they can't be influenced by an ad if they don't see it. So we need to acknowledge that views do have the power to drive action too, and MMM takes views into account. They take this into account. So overall, in this challenging environment, the more diverse marketing activities, gaming companies who really embrace innovative measurement strategy will be able to identify the true drivers of their success and stay ahead of the competition, maintain a competitive edge in the market.
All right, thanks, Diana, thanks Gary and Rob. I think that was a good intro into this webinar. And what is MMM and why you should use MMM. And we have actually a quick poll that we're gonna put live now to understand better what is you in the audience, your strategy currently with MMM. If you're using MMM already, using MMM, not using it, or if you plan to use it in the upcoming month. I'm putting that live now, and we'll share the results towards the end of the webinar. That should be live. Reverting back to what you were saying, Diana, and for gaming specifically, a lot of things are going to happen in 2024, right? There are a lot of talks around new store, being available towards the end of the year. Also, a lot of questions around, buying in-app purchase outside of the traditional stores, that's on the web pages. A lot of companies as well are thinking of launching broader games, later this year or in 2025. While right now, many of them are only on mobile apps ready. When you think about those strategies and those goals of those companies, how do you think MMM can help with this evolving market?
Yeah, this is a very good summary. The gaming and mobile gaming, as well as XP gaming, the environment is constantly changing, and the companies are driving this change. I see more and more companies that are boosting their organic presence. They have billboards in Times Square. They are finding new ways to engage users in their game. They are having branding campaigns where the main KPI is awareness, which for a mobile gaming company that tracks primarily performance is something new. And the adoption of all of these marketing efforts, to me, makes the mobile gaming company, closer to what I call more traditional advertisers. So think the likes of Coca-Cola, Procter & Gamble. And how do you measure performance? Well, we look at those advertisers. They have successfully adopted media mix models for many years. They don't have the luxury of having the visibility of the user journey. They operate in an offline environment most of the cases, but they have been using media mix model to give them an information of how their marketing performs. And they have been using that very successfully to make business decisions. So I think the changing environment of gaming, the adoption of those new efforts that are paying out, requires a change in the measurement. One thing is clear: the old ways of measurement will not work moving forward.
Yeah, it's a good point what Diana makes. I mean, really, one of the strengths of MMM, certainly over touch attribution, is the fact that they can measure the effectiveness of different channels in your marketing mix, online and offline. And also, as Diana mentioned there as well, which is, we've had these great big advertisers using MMM for many, many years, decades and decades, and they don't have the advantage of being able to track their sales digitally, traditionally anyway. And so I suppose that the sort of message there is MMM isn't a sort of going to replace touch attribution. It should really enhance what you're already doing with touch attribution. So using different combinations of different methods to make your current measurement methods and marketing tracking a bit more effective, enrich it with new data, and see what works for you and what doesn't in these new sort of environments that we're coming into.
Yeah, there's also an advantage with the state of app advertisers specifically. Typically, their data is in a very good state. They've got an awful lot of almost real-time, if not daily data, which may not have been available in the past. And so the sort of new generation of these media mix models can ingest this data practically into real time, update themselves, and give you an improved view over those traditional models. There's another aspect to this, which is sort of reflecting on last touch. When you're looking at various KPIs and so on, those KPIs typically are sort of one-dimensional. You get a single number. One of the aspects of a sort of modeling approach is the fact that you get a two-dimensional view of how much more you can get out of your channels. So we refer to them as cost curves. And of course, the idea here is, well, what happens if you increase budget? What happens if you decrease budget? And all of this can be predicted before you go out and start testing it. So it saves advertisers money by knowing ahead of time what is expected to happen.
Thanks, Rob. And thinking about all those changes that are coming in 2024, there is actually one that we haven't mentioned yet, but I guess it's worth talking about, is Google Privacy Sandbox. So how do you see MMM playing, with Google Privacy Sandbox?
Yeah, it depends on how the events will unfold, but we all know what are the challenges that gaming advertisers are facing now with the scan data and the lack of visibility because of the privacy restrictions from Apple. There are a lot of assumptions that clients are currently using, but they still have Android, which is an accurate view. Imagine that visibility also is gone. There is really no choice there. With that visibility gone, clients can either stay in the dark and mount the assumptions that they're working with, or they can adopt a new model that can shed a light on the true performance. And I think this change will push companies towards a future-proof measurement strategy. They have to start working with multiple models, and the key here really will be have a stack of models, system of models that work in agreement and provide you the visibility that you will lose through the privacy restrictions.
Got it. Thanks, Diana. Rob, Gary, anything to add to this?
What specifically around Google Sandbox? I mean, as I think Diana covered it off really, which is still a lot of unknown about the environment. But what we do know is what's happened on iOS and the challenges that's presented. We can only assume that that's going to be the case with Google Sandbox going forward.
And actually, so that's a good transition around for the next topic we wanted to discuss. Obviously, with iOS or Google Privacy Sandbox, it's potentially less data available, right, to marketers. When you think about MMM specifically, so how does that impact MMM? Essentially, my question here for you guys is, what are the inputs that you need to run MMM?
Yeah, so I mean, at a high level, and it doesn't need to get much deeper than this, but I'll hand over to Rob, and he can get a bit more into the weeds about it. But at a high level, really, we're looking at what we call sort of aggregated market level data, and it's daily data. So we would be looking at all of the events within the conversion funnel from the client to build a model from. So typically for this audience here in gaming, that would be an install, maybe a trial or a tutorial of the game. Day 7 ROAS, day 30 ROAS, number of purchases, and so on. And then, so we would need that data to build the model, plus the daily aggregated ad spend by network as well. So Google, Facebook, and so on. And typically we're looking for a minimum of about a year's worth of data. But it is a data science product. So all MMM runs off powerful data science. So the more data we can get hold of, historical data, so let's say 2-3 years worth of data, the more robust the model will become. So as we've covered, this means that the input for MMM is privacy first, which means that it's future-proof against any evolving privacy policies, which may or may not come. More than likely that they will come. I'll hand over to Rob, who can probably give a bit more of an in-depth and add to that.
Well, I don't think it's really needed. The important concept here is the fact that it's privacy first. We just work from aggregated data. There are lots of different paths you can take for improving the data to add to it, but really as Gary said, the important part is just aggregated privacy first data, so it's future proof. Beyond that, we can add market data, things like weather, sporting events, and so on. But to get you to the first point where you're actually getting use out of it, it's just super simple data. Total numbers of events and costs per day.
Rob, just a quick point here, because obviously we can get a client, certainly within our system, we can get a client a useful model with the data that we've just explained. But because we've got a few gaming clients now, what are the other additional inputs that you've seen make a big impact on models? So I'm specifically, so live ops, we've ingested that data as well, haven't we?
Yeah. So again, it's that 80-20. So the basics first. You get useful insight from implementing those basics, and over time, you will want to improve that and gain additional insight. And that's where things like app store ratings, even sentiment analysis on things that people are saying, organic social numbers, which previously has never really been included in any sort of meaningful fashion, again, sort of things like weather and so on. So it comes down to you are the expert in your business, and what do you think are the things that drive sales beyond paid, beyond spending ad dollars, and all of these things can be added with relative ease. Flick of a switch, you can add in weather data and see whether it improves your model or not. So it kind of comes down to what you think is driving your business, and we can add that data.
Right, clear. Thanks. I know I said that we'll tackle the questions towards the end of the webinar, but I'm going to use part of a question to ask you guys, Gary, Diana, Robert, a question, another one. But we have Gary, who is saying, if MMM is used for so long by traditional advertisers, why isn't it a more commonly used method? There is a second part of the question, but I want to stop here. You are talking about data input, 80-20 rules, etc., etc. Is a reason for advertiser not to adopt MMM because it is actually hard to set up a model, or is there any other reason here?
Well, It's pretty straightforward, really. It's just really to do with technological advances in recent years. So traditional MMM is quite a heavy lift for a client to set up. You would normally require a team of data scientists and analysts to extract data from various different sources, often quite siloed and fragmented. And they would spend many weeks and months compiling that data into a model. And of course, these are expensive resources. And then the output of that model is what I would call static. So it's simply a report, so imagine a PDF report with some really great insights on there about your marketing activity from 2 or 3 quarters ago. The impact of your TV and your out of home and whatever else, if you're thinking your mind about a business like Coca-Cola or something like that. So then they would then use that static data to plan their next quarter, or maybe even the quarter that was related to the quarter that they've just had analysed, so Q1 of last year, so Q1 of this year. That doesn't really work for our domain, which is much more dynamic and much more reactive to what's going on in real-time data. And that's probably why touch attribution has been so successful. First, it's beautifully simple to understand. The last touch point gets 100% of the credit for the sale. So it's really easy for clients to understand, and it's real time. So it's something that you can react to within your campaign data, and you can adjust it for tomorrow or for next week. So the reason why MMM is now becoming popular and being used more and more, and it's still within its infancy. It's not a mature part of the ecosystem. But the reason why it's being used more and more now is because of everything I just said, the technological advances. So it means that we can build models in real time and give our clients real-time feedback on their marketing efforts. And also, to match alongside that in parallel are these changes which are happening with privacy. We've already spoken about Apple and Google privacy policy changes. Marketeers are getting massive signal loss. So the days of just solely depending on touch attribution are over. You're going to have to enrich your data with a new, more advanced system.
Yeah, and I can add here, when we started on the wave of MMM at TikTok with the gaming advertisers, we had to bust a couple of myths. So what Gary was saying, the perception of the MMM is that it is a one-off model that is run once a year, that requires a lot of resources in order to run, that gives you a PDF type of output, which is not the case with the New Age. This is why there is a name, a New Age MMM vendor, because the old school MMM is still the way it was, but the New Age is all of these improvements that have been added in order to adapt for a vertical like gaming. And also, as Gary said, previously you weren't forced to use it. Now you kind of are. It is funny. I have maybe the privilege of being around for so many years in MMM. I do remember when MTA became a thing. I do remember the excitement of, oh my gosh, we can actually track the users. But then I do remember the time when they were kind of on par, because the MTA, the last click models, clients will understand that they're not providing a visibility on your TV ad. They're not providing visibility on other things. And it's like, okay, maybe we need both. Again, it wasn't the case for gaming because of how so much more focused you are on a user journey and the visibility that you had. But now you kind of have to adopt other ways.
Okay.
I'd just like to add, so the term that certainly I use and others use is reducing the data to insight latency. So how quickly can you basically take the latest set of data and gain useful insight into that? And at one end of the extreme is traditional MMM, 6 months to a year. If you make changes, you're not going to see the impact of those changes for another 6 months or 12 months. Equally, at the other end of the spectrum is Last Touch, where you get very, very, it's real time. You get immediate feedback. And the latest generation of MMM tools has enormously reduced that latency from data to insight. And it basically means that you can make changes and you can see the impact of those changes through the models.
Got it. So, when you think about gaming specifically, I mean, we know performance team in gaming companies in the gaming ecosystem, they're quite advanced, right? They take fast decision, they look at data, fast decision. So you're saying here, MMM is not really a challenge for fast decision, right? Or can you elaborate a bit more here? Maybe Diana, if you want to start.
No, there is no technical limitation. So the MMM models from New Age MMM models, they are daily models, provided updates on a daily or a couple of times per week or on a weekly basis, which is anyway the basis of decision making with gaming clients. So when it comes to supply of the result of the model, there are no issues. The model is there, it can constantly supply with information. Where the challenge with the adoption is, and actually maybe this is where the question also came from, why now? We're talking about it, is the adoption wasn't great in the past because gaming clients are like I would describe a well-oiled machine. You know where to look for the data, you know what this data means, you know how to make the decision, you make decisions pretty quickly, everyday decisions, once per week, twice per week, once per week or once every 2 weeks. You make big decisions about budget allocation across platforms. And now to have to make this decision on a second set of numbers is a little bit of a disruption to this well-oiled process. So I would say it's more of a challenge is the human element, the slowdown of the thinking. I would say clients and the UA teams within clients, they need to learn or to get used to how to make as quick decisions as they're doing now by leveraging more than one source of data, because this will be the future.
Yeah, I think when you provide teams or individuals with two sets of data, sometimes opposing data, it sort of creates a cognitive dissonance. It's not helpful. And again, I think the sort of latest generation is tending towards creating that single set of data so that people can pretty much continue as they are with their with their current KPIs, but with MMM sort of driven stats in the background, and that aim to actually reduce or remove, I should say, the kind of bias that's inherent in Last Touch, ultimately increasing ROAS and other KPIs.
Got it. Also, I think, we've talked about performance marketing team and, how do they adapt to MMM, but we with all the conversation we had with gaming company and different side of, the company, obviously performance marketing, but also brand marketing, influencer marketing, ASO team, we see sometimes a disconnect between all of them. Do you think that MMM is finally the solution that can help, bridge all those different teams together to take better decision?
Is that a question for me? It feels like it is. Yeah, certainly. Every client's different. We always see different team setups within clients. Some clients have their marketing team and their social team and their influencer team and their UA team and so on, all working quite well together. And then other clients we see where they have different targets and they look at different metrics. MMM is one yardstick for all marketing efforts. So you can measure TV if you are doing TV in the same way that you can measure Google. So it definitely gives a more holistic view of what you're doing across your different teams, and therefore it can enable a more strategic partnership across the business, because effectively at the end of the day, all marketers, whether you're a performance marketer, brand marketer, influencer marketer, or whatever section you work in, the goal of your job is to improve sales for the business. That's it. There's brand marketing's useless if everyone knows your brand but no one's buying it. So that's where MMM's strength really is. It's going to give you a read on the influence of your offline media on your online media. So it really shows you that holistic view so that you can start to pull and push levers that maybe you didn't have before, just giving you more enriched overview of your efforts.
Great, thanks, Gary. And we've talked a lot about the challenges in the last few minutes. Just typed a new poll that I'm going to put live now around those challenges. And what do you consider the biggest challenge in implementing MMM in your organization? And that's now live. Just quickly on the previous poll, so you are aware of the results. We have about 2/3 of the people who've responded who are saying that they're already using MMM, or they are planning to assess or to use MMM in the coming month. So clearly we can see the interest here in MMM for the gaming companies. So after talking about the challenges, what output can you expect to see from an MMM model? So if you're data scientist working in a gaming company, if you're part of a performance team working at a gaming company, or any other team marketing related, what output can you expect? Diana, I guess you've seen a lot here. Anything you can
Yeah, I would say eye-opening outputs and uncomfortable. The numbers will probably show you things that you didn't. They probably go against what you believe. Doesn't mean that there is anything wrong with the MMM. It is just for so many years, mobile gaming industry has been looking only at the last click model, rarely bringing in an alternative approach to kind of give another point of view on the performance. That MMM results can show you that by telling you that what you believed for some platforms is correct is not correct. In terms of KPIs, it's the same KPIs that you're used to see from an MMP perspective. So you have the ROAS, the purchases, the installs, the different cohorted metrics. As we said, it's automated model, it's frequently updated. So you will get all of that. But there are two things that I want to highlight, or three maybe. That MMM can provide you a point of view that last click model does not. And the first one is understanding the channel saturation. And I think, Gary, you touched on that. So with the MMM models, you know how much more you can push the spend behind certain channel, and at what point you will reach saturation, which means that you put more money, you get zero out. This is something that the last click model doesn't give you visibility on. You have to go beyond this point in order to understand, oh, actually I'm not getting anything back, I need to pull back. Whereas MMM gives you a great visibility on the saturation curve itself. It also reflects in its results the synergies between platforms. So you can expect to have some degree of redistribution of the credit between platforms, rightly so. And then finally, one of the very useful elements of the MMM is that it also kind of re-estimates how much is the true organic and how much is really the media. As a combination, I will tell you that more often than not, your total media ROAS will be lower on MMM versus last click model, because MMM will take into account all of the other factors that play the role, whereas last click model just assumes, oh, there is a media, there is a click, so it must be the media and the click that drove the action. So it can tell you about this exchange between organic in both ways, by the way. Some platforms, and I'll say it, we have done it with TikTok. I know it from some client feedback. Some platforms like TikTok, who do have the organic presence, we sometimes get more credited with more installs conversions because the last click puts them in the organic. And I know that some of you that are on the webinar already know that, because the clients themselves have been telling us, we see organic impact from TikTok. We don't know how much it is. Can you help us to estimate? And MMM can help with that.
Yeah, it's also, I'll just add to that as well, which is, and it comes back to the question that we were asked earlier as well, which is why hasn't MMM been so sort of more widely adopted if it's been around for so long? And another element to that also plays into this question, which is what's the output of that? So we've spent a lot of time over the last few years making our data much more operational. So we understood that traditional MMM, the insights were really interesting, but you did need, a data scientist to be able to interpret the data for you. So the output from a modern MMM or a next generation MMM tool like ours, and I'm assuming others as well, is that you should really see the data in a format that's friendly to you, something that's recognizable. So almost like attribution data. So you should see your installs, your 7-day ROAS, your number of revenue events, and so on and so forth, at the hierarchies that you expect to see them. So at network level, at publisher level, at campaign level. And this means that it's nowadays modern MMM, today's MMM has become much more actionable for UA marketers to implement. And that's why up until now, really, there hasn't been this sort of wide adoption of it, because the data wasn't very actionable. So, with today's systems, you should be looking at what's the output, can I action on it? And hopefully the answer is yes.
Yeah, to add to that, I think the one thing that most people are going to be familiar with if they've used any MMM tools is, of course, the optimization. So once you have your cost curves or your saturation curves for all of your networks or sources, you can then utilize that information and optimize. So, a piece of software called an optimizer takes all of those complex curves, combines them together, and identifies budget allocations that will get you a better return on your investment. And I think, again, it's probably leaning on the fact that that there's a lot more computation availability these days. We can take that optimization routine to the next level. We can explore solutions that you may not have considered before, whether that's higher budgets, lower budgets, pretty much changing all of the variables across all of your campaigns, hunting for that sweet spot that's going to get you a better return. So in terms of answering the question, the output is, of course, all of your standard attribution data plus recommendations or advice that will improve your return.
All right, super, thanks. I'm looking at the time. We have 16 minutes left. Before we go into the Q&A, maybe let's touch on the last topic, which is important for every marketer and everyone working at a gaming company, which is around performance. So, what performance improvement can you expect to see with MMM? At the end of the day, we're all working to try to improve performance of what we're doing. Gary, do you want to tackle this one?
Yeah, I mean, there's different ends of the scale here. It really depends on the sophistication of the organization that we're. So I'm taking this from our experience. So working with many different companies over the last year or so, specifically in gaming, there's different ends of the scale in terms of how sophisticated they are and advanced they are already. So. And that depends on lots of different dynamics. So the number of apps that they have, the number of geos that they go across, the different sort of resources that they have internally. But typically, the objective of any MMM model is to find better efficiency in the market for the client. So whether you're targeting a better CPA or better 7-day ROAS or 30-day ROAS, whatever it may be, or a mix of both, maybe you want to, have a blend of 7-day ROAS and revenue as well. You can do that with MMM. You can put that into a system, and the model would generate you the optimum way to achieve that. What the MMM model is trying to do is trying to show you the maximum efficiency that you can get out of the market for the variables that you've put into the model. So the optimization, whether you tell it that you want to achieve a certain 7-day ROAS with a set budget for the next month, it will find within your media mix the best balance across your different channels. So typically, in terms of, it sounds like I'm skirting around the answer, but I'm not. I'm trying to give some context. Typically, what we see is efficiency gains. So early on, and what does efficiency gains look like? It means that you get more out of the market for the same amount of money that you're putting in. So you're getting more 7-day ROAS from your return on investment from what you were previously. You're achieving a better CPA, and it all comes back to what we've discussed today, which is the fact that the model is calculating and measuring different variables within the market. Your seasonality, your cost curves, any cannibalization events, and so on and so forth. And it's going to give you, guidance. As Rob was saying, the output is, really is good guidance, and good guidance would improve your results.
Yeah, I think Gary, yeah, this is the biggest improvement is the spotting the opportunities and the inefficiencies. That's it. For the client, they do it across the platform. So what are the inefficiencies and opportunities across platforms? For us, the platforms, the benefit is in knowing, okay, what are the inefficiencies and opportunities across operating systems, across markets, across campaigns, understanding this exchange between the organic and the paid result. So yeah, I think you summarized it really well, the opportunities and the inefficiencies.
All right, super. So we have 12 minutes left to tackle some of the questions. We have some great questions from Luna, from Rodrigo, from Gadi, etc. But maybe let's start with one of the questions that we got. So when you all registered to this webinar, you could ask some questions. And this is related to the second poll that went live. So remember, the question was, what do you consider the biggest challenge in implementing MMM in your organization? More than, exactly 50% of you said the lack of expertise or lack of resources is the biggest challenge. And that relates pretty well to a question we had, which was, how do you test an MMM model? Yeah, Gary, Rob, Diana, any one of you who want to tackle this one?
I'll take it from a high level and then maybe hand over to Rob for more of a technical. But the reality is, and we've been doing this for a few years now, the only way you can really test an MMM model, in my opinion, and this is probably simplifying it slightly, but is to put rubber on the road. And what we mean by that is to actually test what the model is recommending to you, the output, which is increased spend here, decreased spend there to achieve your goals. You have to actually have confidence in the model, and you have to make those small adjustments. Now, a good MMM system won't make any outrageous recommendations. And what I mean by that is quite often with older systems, older MMM models, they could suggest to you to cut spend on Google by 80% next month, and on Facebook, and increase Facebook by 2,000%, and these kind of things. A good system like ours will make small course correctional changes as their recommendations, and of course, a good system, you can put in that criteria as well. So you can actually say to the system, don't recommend any more than 5% changes across this network and maybe 20% on this network. So you can make those add in that criteria to the optimization. So I forgot it was how do you test. So basically, it's actually making these changes. It's making the budget changes in accordance to your to what the MMM model is telling you. And if your ROAS goes up, then it's worked, and if it goes down, it hasn't worked, and then you need to test again.
Just a little bit of nuance there, which is if you're looking at paid ROAS, everyone knows it's very easy to improve that simply by cutting budget, and I think really the sort of North Star typically is going to be your blended or the blended CPA, blended ROAS, these kinds of figures that include both your paid and your organics, and really you should see you will see improvements in those. Secondly, I won't go into too much detail, but you can carry out back tests. All this is where if our system makes a projection, or the MMM tool makes a projection, that data is retained so that you can actually look to see whether those predictions have come true or not. And it gives you an idea of had you done nothing, this is what you would have achieved. Now that I've made some changes, I've improved these metrics. And of course, it's all done ahead of time, so it can't be retrospectively changed to the benefit of the MMM tool.
Okay, you're talking about improvement. So I guess it means on the flip side that an MMM model can have an error rate, and that's one of the questions we got. I know, Diana, we've talked multiple times about what type of error rates you can expect from an MMM model. Do you have something to add here, maybe?
Yeah, I'll give the word to Rob for the more technical answer, but I would say, hey, every model has an error rate. Whether it's given to you or not given to you, not shown to you, the fact that it's a model means that it comes with an error attached to it. It is just the MMM models, the error rate is revealed, the confidence intervals are revealed, as well as in geotesting, for example. No one necessarily talks about those when we talk about like last click models and etc. But every model, the fact that it's a model means that it has an error rate and it's not precise, like 100% precise.
Brilliant.
Just quickly, I think Diana, you touched on it. What's the error rate of your last touch attribution? And that's going to be revealed when you do deterministic incremental studies, and it can be anything from 5 to 80%. And I think if we went to a client with an error rate of 80%, we'd kind of be laughed out of the shop.
Cool. So let's take on another question. Maybe we have time for 2 more. So actually, Luna and Rodrigo have a pretty similar question. So let's tackle this one first. Rodrigo is saying, imagine you have 2 outputs, MMP attribution and MMM attribution coming. How do you imagine teams merging this data? And from Luna, which is fairly similar, it is, how do you suggest advertiser to use MMM results together with attribution results to make budget decision? Anyone want to take that one?
Yeah, one thing that I will say, and then I will leave it to either Gary or Rob, is that the new age partners like Kochava are doing a pretty good job to make it as easy as possible for you to make the decision. So Gary, Rob, if you can jump in and give a little bit more detail about your approach.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we actually ingest a lot of the last touch data. So we actually will initialize all of the models from what you would recognize as your current attribution values. And then the models kind of take that and then diverge away from it if necessary. So in the first instance, we already combine those 2 data sets. And secondly, we recombine the data sets again when we actually publish campaign level data. So the data is combined for you. But But yeah, I think that covers it off.
All right. Thanks. Well, let's tackle the last questions, which is good to conclude this webinar, I think. Any suggestion to gaming advertiser if they just started to explore MMM? Gary,
I would say be curious. That's the most important thing. Be curious. At the end of the day, nothing hurts you in running another model and looking and be curious about what it will tell you. And actually, touching a little bit on one of the other questions, if you ask other industries, and it's not just MMM that other industries are doing, everyone is curious, and whatever available models there are for other industries, there are a lot of models, gaming not so much. They're curious and they're exploring. Explore MMM, explore what it will tell you. If you are confused about what it the direction that it sends you towards, do a geotest, test that. Do as Rob said, check the prediction model against what will happen in reality after you follow the prediction. But this is the biggest. If you don't try it, you would not know how it can help you and how good your results can be with it.
Yeah, I'll just add to that as well. There's a misconception in the market that MMM is quite a heavy lift for clients to implement, and it really isn't compared to lots of other products and services within your marketing stack. So if you're switching MMP, for example, there's a massive lift. MMM can be set up with relative ease. There's no technical resources that's required because there's no SDK, there's no campaign disruption at all. All that's required is basically just access to your data. And that can be had from various different sources, but typically for this audience, it's gathered through an API at your MMP. And then it's just a bit of consultation with yourselves, the client, to understand your conversion funnel, to understand the nuances of your business, and so that the model can ingest the correct data. So it is a relatively simple solution to get up and running and to start testing, as Diana said. It's about mindset really than anything else.
Right. Super. Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Diana. I think we're pretty much on time. I'll just give you the result for the last poll. About 20% of you consider the biggest challenge being data collection and quality. Another 20% consider that it's integrating multiple data sources. About 10% is about justifying ROI to stakeholders, and 50% is lack of expertise and resources. I think Gary just mentioned that implementing an MMM solution is actually fairly straightforward. There is, no technical integration required, etc., etc. We'll leave you with that. Thanks a lot for joining the webinar today. And we'll follow up with you tomorrow. By tomorrow, you will receive the recording of this webinar. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us, reply to the email that you will receive, and we're happy to get in touch with you and to support you in your journey to implement MMM.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.